Hello, my name is Katie Palisol. I am the General Manager for the UK for Politico. And I'm really pleased to be here today with Riccardo and Frank. And we'll be hosting and running a session on fueling cleaner transport. What does the future like for EU mobility? So, as I said, I'm here with Riccardo Procacci, President and CEO of Propulsion and Additive Technologies at GE Aerospace. Riccardo leads the Propulsion and Additive Technologies organization with a focus on researching, developing, and manufacturing innovative technologies for civil and military aircraft components and propulsion systems, with more than 25 years of GE experience. And we're here with Frank Haselbach. He's the SVP of Propulsion Engineering at Airbus. Frank is responsible for engines and propulsion of today and tomorrow. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Should we just get straight into the questions then?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So while aviation contributes roughly 3% of overall emissions today, the industry has declared a goal of net zero emissions by 2050. Do you both feel this is achievable, and how is the industry progressing?
Well, if I take the first stab at it, the short answer is yes. But if you stop there, you risk to be really too simplistic and not to give a sense of the real complexity that achieving the target involves. First of all, do we have sight to what are all the various technologies that can have a play to it to achieve this target? There is no one silver bullet that will fix the issues for us. And it's not about, here we are talking about two propulsion persons, but it's not about propulsion. It's about propulsion, it's about the aircraft, it's about the fuel itself, it's about traffic control. It's many angles that are going to play. The second thing is definitely how you introduce such a huge shift from the technology standpoint without compromising in the one single biggest asset that the industry has, that is safety. Now, there is nothing that can be compromised from that standpoint. And finally, I would say the element of cost. This is a big transformation that we want to realize in a relatively short time. So the element of affordability, how we can make that transformation affordable for the industry, for the taxpayers, for the customers. It's another important angle. So yes, a lot of complexity that we need to work on.
Yeah. I think you said it well. There is no single solution to this. We have a multitude of solutions, and to be fair, we don't have too much time, so we're together on the case, because it's less than 10,000 days to 2050, so it's a pacey undertaking. And we have effectively four main strands. One is to renew the flying fleet today with more efficient aircraft, and the aircraft which are coming out based on better wings and engines are fundamentally 20-30% more fuel efficient than the ones which are flying today, so that's goodness. We're working on new technologies. Here we're working with also GE and CFM on the RISE program, so looking at a more efficient propulsion system, but also smarter materials for the aircraft, better wings, and a better sort of air traffic management. Then we're looking at the energy vectors, and there it's sustainable aviation fuels, so biofuels, and but also direct renewable energy to liquid via a Fischer-Tropsch process. That is an important element, and also looking at completely new energy vectors like hydrogen and more electrification in the aircraft, where we bring in fundamentally sort of more electric power locally, and then fundamentally have an overall better and more efficient aircraft. And last but not least, the last element of the zero carbon journey will be sort of investment into carbon capture technologies and other things, which then more or less close the circle and go back into sort of sustainable aviation fuels. Our aircrafts today can fly on 50% sustainable aviation fuel, really today, but we have a problem with scaling sustainable aviation fuel up to that level. The use is far not at 50%. And within the end of the decade, together with our partners, we will in fact make sure that all our aircraft can fly on 100% sustainable aviation fuel.
If another big shift in paradigm comes from the fact that we are sitting together here. If you look at the past, engines were developed, aircraft were developed, and eventually they would be matched.
Yeah.
The sustainable aircraft of the future will require much more co-development and integration between the aircraft maker, the airframer, and the propulsion provider.
Understood.
For one very simple reason, the engines are getting bigger and bigger, and the integration on the aircraft gets much more challenging, and as a consequence, we have to work together much earlier.
Thank you for that. So, Riccardo, aviation's hard to abate, and you mentioned sort of sustainable aviation fuel, and that receives a lot of attention, but it's only sort of part of the solution. Could you go into a bit more detail on the role technology would play in addressing sort of aviation emissions?
Yeah, there's a good segue with what we said earlier. No one single silver bullet that will save us. That GE Aerospace, together with our partners, we start developing a portfolio, a suite of technologies that eventually will make our sustainable future. Technologies that, then maybe I'll let also Frank chime in for this, that could be seen at least more like evolution of our current propulsion systems, even though we may be different architectures, but also hybrid solutions where we are already developing about integrating fuel cells with propellers, with batteries in a complex systems, or other solutions where we are already trying to see the effect of burning hydrogen into a combustion engine, with all the complexity related to the transportation stocking of the hydrogen. So we put all of this suite of technologies that we are currently developing that will likely have a role at a different time from now to 2050 in one big program that we called RISE. And we tend to look at RISE more like a specific architecture. Reality is that what we call RISE is a suite of technology that will have a play.
Yeah, I can maybe explain a bit. I think you see the image behind us here. There is in fact an open fan or a RISE technology demonstrator on an aircraft of Airbus as a technology demonstration. That's a plan we have together. And it might be worthwhile to explain a bit why we're doing this.
That would be great, yeah.
So if you sit back and look at engines on aircraft, you will have noticed over the last 40 years they got bigger and bigger. So this is the way they get more efficient. So you make this fan in the beginning of the engine much bigger, so you need bigger diameter. If you want to do a step change in that efficiency, you have to really increase the diameter further, maybe almost double it to the engines of today. But then you can't put a casing anymore around it, and it becomes an open fan. That open fan is shown here effectively on a wing. You have then a much more efficient propulsion system, but you have new challenges. So you have to understand how that propulsor actually interacts with the aerodynamics of the wing and the aircraft. You have to understand what are the external noise, so the community noise and the cabin noise implications of this. You have to understand what the regulatory environment is in terms of this engine on wing. And you need to look at the opportunities you have by electrification, by side electrification of that engine, generating more electrical power with the engine for the aircraft. All of those elements we're looking at, and of course, that's an undertaking which is not an easy investigation. So you have to invest, you need to do this on ground, and you need to do it in flight. And once that technology is deemed to be mature, it could be an element of the next generation of aircraft, which then will help us again to drive towards a net zero.
Fantastic. So I think we've got time for one more question. For both of you, actually, and to provide some more information for sort of the policymakers in this room, but also the other sort of global stakeholders who are here today. What do you think the EU should be doing to help support innovation?
Okay. I think the most important thing, in my view, is to acknowledge the complexity, which is one of the messages we've been trying to pass on. If I go back 50 years, our industry has been improving efficiency every year, at least 1.5% between propulsion and the aircraft. The good thing for the last 50 years was that every year we were making engines more efficient, which means more environmentally friendly, which means more economical for the airlines to operate, which means more affordable for people. Perfect. We are at a pivotal moment where making engines more environmentally friendly will mean more cost for the industry, the airliners, the taxpayers, and ultimately the customers. This is a change in paradigm, how we make keep our commitment to sustainability, which is undisputed, with the need of making flights yet still affordable for people. We are incredibly proud of what we give to the world, that is the possibility to connect. And we want to make sure that we don't lose that opportunity.
Yeah, and I think we should actually thank the European community today for the funding we already get for clean aviation or CISA and so on. So that's good use, and part of that funding goes into the test we have behind us. But also, of course, we need more of that funding to sustain the complex development of the technology. And we have to also have look into the political element and understand what sort of taxation and incentivization we can do to drive sustainable aviation fuel, the scaling of sustainable aviation fuel, and the new energy vectors like hydrogen and electrification more up in the agenda. Because clearly, without effectively a social and a political initiative, this won't work.
Fantastic, thank you. It seems we've got a little bit of time, so if there's anything else that you'd like to add while you're up here and have this opportunity?
Well, I want to piggyback on Frank's comment on incentives and clean aviation in particular. Today, Europe is at the forefront of our quest for a sustainable aviation. Some of the key technology, the more revolutionary technology, key pieces of that revolutionary engine that you see pitched in the back here, are developed here in Europe. Many companies, Airbus, Safran, Avio Aero, which is one of the companies I personally lead. And this has been the conditions for that to happen, this kind of center of balance moving from the US to here has been driven by some incentive programs like clean aviation that are creating the conditions for that development to happen here. So as we are coming into next budget cycle and where funding will be, decision about funding will be made, I really feel the need to advocate for these programs to continue. These programs have been able to put Europe at the forefront of this of sustainability, but also to create high-quality jobs here in Europe.
Yeah, I think you couldn't say it better. Fundamentally, the European aviation industry is a huge part of the European economy. It's a big motor. We are in the leading position in the world. We would like to maintain that. And it needs to drive the competitiveness of the European economy in the world. And at the same time, it's for a good cause because we're going towards net zero, and we think this goal is in reach. And as I said, it's less than 10,000 days.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you both for joining me on stage today and enlightening us with this information. And thank you all for your attention as well.
And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.